Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call to order the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals, a regular meeting for November 28th, 2018. The first item on our agenda is a consideration of the minutes from our last regular meeting from October 24th, 2018. Those minutes were provided to the board members. Are there any changes necessary to those?
No, sir.
If not, those will stand as approved. Next, we'll move to an item of old business. It's a reconsideration of application Z18039 based on the existing record of Black Mountain Builders, LLC. This was for a 5-foot variance request from the zoning ordinance located in the RS-12 zoning district at 2615 Ritz Lane. And as just an information piece, there will not be a public hearing on this item. Ms. Rush, if you review that for us or get us up to speed where we're...
We'll just do a little brief introduction. Okay. So this is reconsideration of application 18-039, which was for a variance for 5 feet located at 2615 Ritz Lane. At last month's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, October 24th, the board had asked staff to provide copies of the following materials. So there was the full record on this particular item that for reconsideration. And the requested materials included the variance approval form and denial form, which is our new forms, as well as the information that was submitted with the application, the legal notice of the public hearing, as well as a full transcription, the approved minutes from that meeting of June 27th, as well as the staff report and all the agenda items that were included. So for today's meeting, it is a reconsideration of that information, and we're asking the board to make written findings of whatever your decision will be. Thank you.
Any questions for staff or any comments, I guess? I was not present at that meeting, so went over the materials that were provided pretty extensively to make sure I was up to speed. I guess my impression from reading all that was basically a mismeasurement of the pins and the location and that caused the error. So
I don't think that based upon the information that was provided and nothing has changed, I don't know that my opinion of the application is going to change with respects to not making the same decision that we made last time. So
I went back and reviewed all the information from that prior meeting as well, and the one thing that I recall was that the developer, the builder, they had made an attempt, they thought, to lay it out accordingly because of a pin that was missing, but it would appear that they made some errors in that judgment instead of going back and getting a new survey. And then after that was all said and done, they continued, I guess, with the construction, or it may have been too far gone at that point in time to make a change. But after that, and going back over reasons to either approve or deny variances, one, it goes back to the practical difficulties of a particular property, and in this case, that lot is not that irregular and it's not that unusual. It's just unfortunate that they went ahead and built the home with that overlap on the setback, and otherwise that's really, there's just really nothing else that I could see where, according to the regulations we need to abide by on variances, there's nothing that shows that it's any more unusual than any other property or any more difficult than any of the other properties. And it certainly wasn't it really was a self-created difficulty because of the error in judgment by the builder. So I would think we would have no other recourse other than to deny the application for variance.
I also reviewed it, and it's just unfortunate that that happened. It seems as if they didn't see the pen. It was covered with something, and it's sad that he has to go through all that, but we have to stick with the guns, I guess.
Well, I think that a mistake is a self-created situation, and so despite the fact that, we hate when people make mistakes, we don't have an option here to grant a variance for a self-created mistake. And I agree. I didn't have a different impression after reviewing.
With that, I'll make a motion that we deny based upon that there were no practical difficulties related to this property, that the applicant has not shown that this property is unusual compared to other properties in that district or development, and that the applicant has not shown that the difficulties with this property were not self-created by the applicant.
I second that.
Have a motion and a second to the application. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. That decision has been confirmed. Next, we'll go to new business. Our first item is a special use permit, application Z18053 by Mr. Ted Pratt of Woodbridge Homes, LLC, requesting a special use permit to construct an accessory apartment. This is for property located in an RS-15 zoning district at 2833 Bertram Court in the Winthrop Hall subdivision. If you'd review that for us, Ms. Rush.
Ms. Kerr will be making that presentation.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. The applicant, Ted Barret, with Woodbridge Homes, LLC, is requesting a special use permit to construct an accessory apartment attached to the main residence of a home currently under construction at 2833 Bertram Court in the Winthrop Hall subdivision. The accessory apartment is 681 square feet with a kitchen, sanitation, sleeping, and living area. This will be constructed on the east side of the ground floor level of the primary residence and will be occupied by a family member. The building elevations and floor plan are included in the attachments in your packet. An accessory apartment is a second dwelling unit either in or added to an existing single-family detached dwelling or in a separate accessory structure on the same lot of record for use as an independent living facility with provisions within the accessory apartment for food preparation, sanitation, and sleeping. Such a dwelling shall be accessory to the main dwelling. Accessory apartments should be subject to the following standards. There may be only one accessory apartment and to be allowed on a zone lot that is a single-family resident purpose. The lot owner shall occupy one unit, and a family member or an invited guest may occupy the other unit. And the applicant has submitted a letter stating that this unit will be occupied by a family member. The design of the accessory structure gives the appearance of a single-family residence, and there are photos of the residence in your agenda material. If you look at it on the side where the three-car garage is, on the front of the home, or the side of the home towards the front, the apartment is actually in the back side. The back side of the property backs up to Sulphur Springs Road. It does appear from the photographs that you will see that that home, it does look like a single-family home, and it is attached within the home. The design and size shall conform to the standards of the health building and codes. The apartment shall not exceed 700 square feet, and of course it's 681 square feet. The BZA may condition approval upon special use permit lapsing at such time as the ownership of the property is transferred, and the BZA may require additional standards be met in order to assure compatibility of the proposed use with adjoining properties and maintain the integrity of a single-family zoning district. The applicant attests that only one accessory apartment is requested for the site, and it will be used by a family member, and it will not be rented to anyone. And based on the application, staff believes the requested accessory apartment will not have an adverse impacts on the surroundings. It will be compatible with the immediate vicinity. It will be served adequately by existing infrastructure and will not result in any damage to any natural, scenic, or historical feature. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall complete the following: a restriction on use of land form, which is prepared by our city attorney, obtain and provide the property owners and mortgage lenders' signatures and notarized on the restriction on use of land form, and the restriction on use of land form shall be recorded with the Rutherford County Register Deeds Office. And then they will provide 2 copies of the recorded restriction on use of land to the City Planning Department. I'm available to answer any questions you may have, as well as the applicant is available also.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? Thank you. Next, anything the applicant would like to add? Anybody, the representative for? No, sir. Okay. At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application, if you'd come forward and give us your name and address and provide us any comments you may have.
Good afternoon. My name is Bernie Klinke. I live in the Winthrop Hall subdivision and received the notice of this request. For clarification, I would just like to understand or have an understanding. What if the owners, if this is granted and the owners in the future decide to move, how does this eliminate or prevent other people within the subdivision to create also additional an attachment to their existing home and preventing, rental properties, I guess is the question I have.
Correct, and the deed restriction is the document that...
There is a deed restriction that will actually has already been signed by the applicant, and that will be recorded. That restricts them from using this as a rental property to third parties. Requires that it be a family member residing there with them. That will be recorded, and it will, as we say, run with the land. Any future owner of this home would be bound by the same commitment.
Okay. So if it...
And in terms of whether another neighbor and if another landowner in the area wants to establish a family apartment, they would have the right to come ask this body for a special use permit to allow that use, and it would go through the same process that this one is in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
If no further questions, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the application Z18053, the special use permit, with any conditions set by the staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? There are none, so that application has been approved. Thank you. Next is application Z18054 by Clyde Roundtree of Huddleston Steel Incorporated, requesting a special use permit to operate a motor vehicle rental agency located in the CH zoning district at 1618 Northwest Broad Street. Ms. Kerr, you'll review that one for us.
Members of the board. Austin Benedict, represented by Mr. Clyde Roundtree of Huddleston Steel, is requesting a special use permit to operate a motor vehicle rental agency for leasing up to 25 vehicles in accordance with the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance. Property is located in the Highway Commercial District at 1618 Northwest Broad Street. This is in the Georgetown Square Kroger Shopping Center. It fronts on Northwest Broad Street, which this building actually backs up to the Kroger Parking Center. Hertz is currently operating a car rental business in the Georgetown Square Shopping Center at 1794 Northwest Broad Street. The rental vehicles are stored in the parking lot adjacent to the west property line nearest Broad Street. Their primary reason to relocate is to have all of their rental cars in a self-contained parking area so customers can easily locate and walk to the car they are renting without getting confused with other cars in the shared parking lot. The city's current zoning ordinance does not have a category used for rental car agencies. The closest category would be motor vehicle sales, so that requires a special use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The lot is 0.5 acres in size and will accommodate up to 25 cars for lease. There are 3 required spaces for customers, 2 extra guest parking spaces, and 5 employee parking spaces. The property is surrounded on all sides by commercial highway zoning. After reviewing the criteria for special use requirements for car lots, this project site meets criteria except for the requirement for providing for unloading zoning and for car haulers, which is a requirement for the motor vehicle sales lots. Because this is a car rental agency, they will not be having the hauler trucks coming onto their lot to put cars onto the lot. They will not be selling cars from this location, and the car hauler is not necessary and will not occur. As such, the applicant's proposal is consistent with the motor vehicle standards. The staff would recommend that the special permit allowing the renting of vehicles from this site, vehicle sales and hauling, sales and unloading or loading of vehicles onto a hauler is not permitted. The applicant shall comply with the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance, section 92D FFF, which are the standards for the vehicle sales, except for number 8, which is relating to unloading and loading of vehicles on the lot. And those regulations in section 9D D2FF are in your staff comment or staff packet. Because this is a change of use, the automotive leasing facility at this site, a site plan approval would be required to be reviewed by the planning department, where it relates to the parking spaces and the measurements of them to assure that they are the required size, any lighting on the property, as well as the dumpster enclosure. It currently has a dumpster enclosure that is a chain link fence that has some mesh plastic corrugated put through the slats, so that will be a portion that will be reviewed by staff as well. I'm available to answer any questions, as well as Mr. Clyde Roundtree.
Any questions for Ms. Kerr?
Do they intend on, when you said something about being self-contained, do they intend on putting a perimeter fencing around that?
That has not been mentioned to me, no.
But there's an entrance and an exit to that separate parking lot, unlike the larger Kroger parking area.
It is one entrance, in interior and exterior. I believe there's a picture, if you could pull it up, Marina. This is the site. You can see it comes off of Broad Street. There is no entrance into the Kroger parking spot. I believe there's an actual photo of the facility that shows a front and rear facility. There you go. And that's just an entrance into it. It can't exit into the Kroger parking lot.
Anything else? Thank you. Anything the applicant would like to add?
Thanks, Amelia. Chairman Young, commissioners, my name is Clyde Roundtree, also still engineering. The only thing I really want to add is Amelia had asked me to supply some dimensions on the parking lot, and I went out there and field verified to make sure that we have the room. Currently, they have basically wheel stops on all the parking spaces, so the striping's a little bit shy. Part of the lease agreement that Mr. Benedict's going to work with is we're going to require some restriping of the parking spaces. So we have the room to accommodate city standards, but right now the striping's running a little bit short. So I just want to bring that for clarification. Also, he's going to be painting the building. It's no longer going to be orange. So it'll be a Hertz color scheme. So, and another question came up at one point that Amelia asked is whether they're going to use any other additional parking in the Kroger parking lot, and this business will be self-contained just to that location. It won't breach into the. That's one of the reasons they're moving, because right now their rental cars are amidst just public cars, and people are like, "Which car is it?" And people walk up to the wrong car. So this gives them more of a standalone kind of situation. So, with that in mind, that's all I had to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Austin Benedict. I'm the landlord who's working this lease agreement with Hertz, so I'm certainly for the application. A couple of small points of clarity. The property currently accommodates 41 parking stalls as is striped now, so the striping conforms with ADA and code requirements. The only items that need to be corrected are just the length of the stripes themselves. So Hertz had a ADA review professional come out and take kind of an inventory of the property and look at the as-built conditions, and have given me a list of the things that we'll correct at the property. So the entirety of the lot will be restriped. So every stall will be restriped. If a parking stop or bumper needs to be moved, that'll be fixed, and ADA signage moved 6 inches if it was suggested to do so. And as Mr. Roundtree said, I am very grateful to have a tenant who wants the building to be repainted. So the orange is coming down, and it will go to nice polished professional colors in the future. And if there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Benedict?
Sorry, one final point of clarification. I mentioned earlier there are 41 stalls. I want to make sure that the existing conditions of the property match up with the proposal that was submitted. It sounded like if this was passed, it might limit Hertz's ability to ever have more than 25 rental vehicles at the property. That wasn't our intent. The number 25 came from the number that Hertz has as kind of the average volume of cars at their facility 200 feet away. So their primary reason to lease my building is that it would allow them to have all of their rental vehicles sort of self-contained. But from time to time, they may have as few as 10 cars, or it could be 32 cars plus a couple of employee vehicles. So I just wanted to make that clarification so we didn't inadvertently put a limit on them that was not the intent.
Since you brought up, I guess it's a point, are they limited by the number of cars they can have? Do they have to reserve 3 for the building and then whatever spaces are left or what they can use for their inventory?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they'll have the required spaces for their employees and their guests, and then whatever they need for their inventory, but it does need to meet the city standards for the depth and width, and then the drive aisles as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Question. Okay, so I'm not real sharp with that adding, but 35 spaces is what's proposed here, and you said there's 41.
That's right,
So
yes, sir.
are you going to lose 6 spaces?
I don't have the exact document that you're looking at.
Yeah, it just said, you're from the overview, there were 25 cars for lease, 3 for customers, 2 extra guest parking, and 5 employees. So that's 35 spaces. And you mentioned that you've got 41 spaces now in that same area. So is it going to have to be? Are you going to? I guess what I was asking, are you going to lose 6 spaces because of having to do some remeasuring, or to come in compliance, or is he going to be limited to 35 spaces? I guess it would be my question. I guess I'll question to you. Are you
Sure.
You think you're going to lose space?
We won't lose any spaces by taking the action of restriping it to conform with ADA. So it already conforms with ADA in terms of size of stalls. It's just the length of the striping. When it was restriped, 6 years ago, the guy just didn't run the machine long enough, so it's 16 feet rather than 18 feet deep, by way of example. The city is requiring that we have a certain number of reserved spaces for employees, which we'll conform with. What we supplied to the city was in terms of number of employees, was the maximum number that Hertz says they would ever have at the property. Typically, they may have 2 or 3 on any given Tuesday. On day before Thanksgiving on a Saturday, they said we may have 5. Folks running around. So as we use those numbers and then guest numbers, we've chopped it down, and I think that's where the number 35 came up with. But what I'd hate to do would be to go back to Hertz and say, we got the approvals, and when they look at it, they say, well, Austin, if we're never using guest spots and we only have 2 employees, is there some circumstance where we'd be violating the rules on the books by having 26 rental vehicles in the parking lot?
And Marina, your answer to that was that the
Yeah,
only
that's my-
requirement was that they had the spaces for guests and employees?
Correct.
Gotcha. So it sounds like if that was the only limitation, if it said, at all times there will be a certain number of spaces reserved for employees and for guests, then we'd be in perfect shape.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much for your time.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any comments as it relates to this application? If not, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we grant this special use permit as proposed and subject to complying with the standards, the zoning ordinance for the parking lot itself. Sorry, that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Did the motion include the conditions set by the staff regarding hauling vehicles?
I was referring, I think, to the special use permit complying with the zoning ordinance for the vehicle sales related to unloading and unloading.
2 conditions there in our packet.
Yeah, to the conditions in the packet.
That was part of the motion, I
Yes.
believe.
Okay.
Never hurts to check.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That application's been approved. Next, under other business, is a consideration and approval of the 2019 calendar for the Board of Zoning Appeals from application and meeting dates.
Yes. So in your packets, we provided a draft for the 2019 Board of Zoning Appeals calendar. The recommended meeting dates are those Wednesdays in blue, and staff is just asking if you could confirm and approve this calendar, and then we can pass it on to get it posted.
I mentioned when I first saw the calendar, I've got school-age kids that have spring break that last week in March, so I've missed the last year or so. I don't have any plans set in stone now, but I'll just toss that out there. That lands during spring break for city and county schools.
This year, or in 2019, for November and December, sometimes those fall on odd days because of the holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas. Mm-hmm. Are they on Thursdays because of the submittal deadline, or was it just from tradition?
No, so they don't conflict with the Planning Commission. There's
Okay.
several meetings that take place,
Out of order.
out of order. So the Planning Commission has already approved their meeting dates, and they are on those Wednesdays just before that.
Just curious.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve if there's no further comments.
Second.
Motion and a second for the calendar. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Calendar's been approved. Staff reports and other business. That's our next item.
We will be having a subsequent meeting to our regular meeting. It's a special hearing. Just wanted to convey, if the board wanted to take a 5-minute recess between those meetings, that's fine. If you want to continue and move through, that's also fine. So I just wanted to let you know that.
We'll take 5 minutes to give somebody, if they don't want to sit in for the next one, a chance to leave, I guess. Does that work for y'all?
Sounds good.
I'm fine.
Okay. We will adjourn for 5 minutes then, if that's
Okay.